Hey, how you doing there again, folks? Me again, of course. Brandon Wenzel. Come back at you. Another confession off my concert confession series. Folks, concert confession series is a vlog series I've been doing for a little while now where I go over there and I lay my soul bare. I confess my concert sins. I reveal my recreational revelries. I muse over my musical misadventures. Basically, it's just one big ego stroke for me to go over there and talk about concerts that I've been to. Because, well, I like live music and going to concerts. But we'll get to that. Folks, it is a super simple format. I'm going to go over there and just yammer on about the shit that I experienced. And whilst I'm doing all that, I'm in my back room today, which means we get Peter Can Thunderbolt poster. Peter Can Thunderbolt poster. Whilst I'm doing all that, folks, I am doing something else, and it does feel particularly appropriate for this episode. I'm wearing a super cool shirt. Folks, when I wear a super cool shirt, I always like to highlight the super cool shirt. What super cool shirt am I wearing for today, though? Happens to be my kitty shirt, which I really love this shirt. It's just a great design. If you're unfamiliar with the band Kitty, they are an all-female metal band out of the great country of Canada. They got started in the 90s, really went over there and broke out in sort of the late 90s, early 2000s during that new metal era. I became aware of them in my high school days. I didn't really get that into their stuff at the time, but a couple decades later, I ended up actually becoming a really big fan. So much so I actually got to see them perform live last year. It was the first time that they toured in like 13 years. I liked them so much, I actually went over there and not only got some merch, I got some videos of their performance I attended. Those videos are on the channel, just in case maybe you want to check them out. If nothing else, I'd be more than happy to go over there and kind of point you in the right direction as far as their music goes, because I think they're absolutely fantastic. But anyway, what are we talking about today, folks? Why is this shirt particularly appropriate? Well, folks, that's because this particular episode of Concert Confessions, episode number 5, concert number 177, by the way, marching towards 200, I happened to go out and see a trio of incredibly badass female-fronted metal bands. Specifically, in order of appearance, the band Edge of Paradise, then moving on to the band Xandria, and then the headliners, Delain. I absolutely loved this show, and I'm going to go into all the reasons why, but just to go over there and get it out of the way right from the get-go, yeah, this was a really good fucking show. I had a blast, and basically I'm going to go over there and just blather on about why I had a blast. Okay, so I do have a little itinerary here that I like to follow when I do this format, because I'm still relatively new to this format, where I like to go through and talk about the different aspects of the show, things I liked, things I didn't like. And the first thing that I always like to go over there and start off with is the venue, because at the end of the day, that's where this whole thing is coming from. The venue that I was at for this particular show is a venue called The Forge in Joliet, Illinois. It is a venue I am very familiar with, going back to the days when it was Mojo's. That was over a decade ago now. They've been The Forge for a while, and they are definitely one of the best and most premier concert venues in sort of the Chicagoland area for kind of, and I don't mean this to be insulting in any way, kind of like mid to upper mid-level metal bands. It's not anywhere near big enough to hold, like Korn or, Metallica or anything like that. Obviously you want like stadiums and stuff like that. But, if you go a couple notches down, the Forge is perfect for that. It's not my favorite venue in the world, specifically because there's these pillars that are in place. And I mean, they're structural, it is what it is, but God, do I hate those things. If you get stuck in the wrong spot, you can't see shit. Thankfully, that wasn't the case today, but I will get into that a little bit later. I've also never been big on just the outlaying of the Forge, because, there's not enough kind of separation between certain things, Like, the bar area is pretty okay, but, the merch and stuff kind of bleeds into the crowd area a little bit too much, but it's not a bad venue, by any means. And I've seen plenty of shows there, and I've loved a lot of those shows, and I'm going to see more shows there this upcoming year, so good venue. Now that said, let's talk about the bands in question. Let's go one by one, and I'll kind of give a little descriptor as to the stuff involved. Edge of Paradise were the first band coming up. I guess they're out of California, as far as I can recall. Uh, I'd never heard of them. I specifically, when I go into live shows, if there's bands on the bill that I've never heard of, I try to avoid looking into their stuff because I want to experience it raw. And when you find a band like Edge of Paradise, it makes me all the more happy that I do that because Edge of Paradise fucking blew me away. They were totally everything that I fucking love when it comes to metal and going to live shows. They were high energy, great crowd involvement. The lead singer absolutely commanded the stage. Like, she had a fantastic stage presence. Even did a few sort of minor costume changes, and sort of, not like full on things or anything, but she went over there and started off with a kind of trench coat kind of vibe and then went from that to a smaller coat with some like light up stuff. It was fun and cool. Her ultimate costume was this sort of like Tron-esque top that was green and black with sort of this cool black skirt. Very cool look, very sort of, and I guess that's like a thing. That's like part of her whole thing. Um, they were really great. Like, and they are the end of the day, they're the opening band, right? So they always are going to have the hardest job because chances are there's less people there to see them than for the headliners. I don't know how accurate or inaccurate that was in this case, but I will say the crowd was 100% on their side right from the get-go. It was a whole thing. People were loving what they were doing, and rightfully so, because I was loving what they were doing. Their style it worked pretty well with Delain and with Xandria, who both have sort of symphonic metal styles. They themselves were not very symphonic, but they did have sort of like kind of a little bit of an electronic vibe to some of their stuff, which gave it a little bit of a alternative ambiance. I really like their stuff, like flat out. They were my find of the night, to the extent where I was there to see Delain. They kind of became my favorite band of the show. I really like their stuff a lot. But let's move on to Xandria. Xandria, another band that I had not previously experienced, and they were definitely the most similar to Delain, and again, they both had that sort of symphonic vibe, but what they did with it was very different. Xandria, the chops on Xandria's vocalist are incredible. Now, I understand from, kind of looking into them a little bit, they have gone through a few vocalists now, and that's got to be a tough fucking thing to make work, considering the fact that, you are working in that symphonic style, and they have these very operatic vocals, but she fucking nailed it. Like, it was very, very cool. You could tell that there was a little bit of a backing track thing for some of the stuff, but I don't think that wasn't to to not perform live or anything like that. Just to go over there and give some extra oomph and reverberation to some of her vocals for some of the fucking notes she had to hit. It was really cool. Again, great stage presence. Really just enjoyed like everything, like just the energy that they had as a band. You could tell that they were a band that had been doing it for a little while and that they knew exactly what they were doing. And yeah, crowd was definitely in on them. They totally were digging the whole thing too. And especially again, when they really got to those more operatic songs, like holy shit, man. Like that definitely sent some chills down my spine. I really enjoyed their set. And they were kind of the perfect accompaniment to a band like Delain. Now, moving on to Delain themselves. I only recently became aware of Delain. And in my head, because, I have an ego and I'm an ass clown, I was like, oh, they must be a newer band. And then I looked into it and it was like, oh, no, they've been around for like 20 years. They're another band where they have gone over there and shifted vocalists. And I do know from looking into like some of the comments in the music videos and stuff on YouTube, that has been a point of contention. I will say this right out the gate. Having listened to some of their older songs and having heard their new vocalist perform those songs, I think she does a phenomenal job. I really do think that she carries on that torch very well from their original vocalist. And then as well as going over there and having her own vocal style when they go over there and perform their newer songs. I got into them through their newer stuff, and ultimately kind of found that I won't say that I preferred their older stuff, but at the very least, I enjoyed it as much, which can be a difficult thing when, again, you're changing vocalists out. But definitely not the case here. It was very easy for me to transition from their older stuff into their newer stuff, or in my case, their newer stuff into their older stuff. As for their performance, it was splendid. That's the I mean, like, it really was. It was fucking transcendent. And here's how you know it was a really, really good performance. They played a very long set. Like, I would definitely say it was over an hour long, and at no point did it feel like it. I've been to enough shows, folks, that even bands that I really like, especially if you've seen them multiple times and stuff, there are times, especially as I'm getting older, my knee starts hurting, my back gets a little sore. In the back of my head, it's like, okay, this is awesome, but, like, we could finish and I could go home and, take some Advil. That was not the case here, though. They had great crowd engagement, and when I say that the crowd was in love with them, I have rarely seen a crowd be on the band's side as much as was the case in this instance. They, like, it was every time the crowd went for it, it was just an eruption of voices and just, cheering and everything. It was fantastic. At one point in time, a guy even went over there and just randomly got a Delain chant going on. Like, they weren't at the end of their set or anything, or, particular song or anything. He just went for it, and the crowd went with him. And it was so fucking cool. Their vocalist, again, I mean, and I do want to say, I'm not trying to downplay the contribution of any of the other band members of any of the other bands, because they're all fucking awesome. But obviously, in this instance, it's hard not to focus on the vocalist. The vocalist of Delain, absolutely phenomenal. And all the band members were. They even had a keyboardist, and I'm a guy, I have a soft spot for keyboards. Like, if I could play any instrument, it would be keyboards. So I appreciated that. But even just, like, the technical stylings that they had, like, with the guitar work and everything, really fucking cool. I liked their set a lot. It was a great way to go over there and top off everything. And I don't think there was a single person there who left unsatisfied. Now, let's go over there and let's talk about some other aspects of the show and what was going on, and then I'll kind of wrap everything up. Let's talk about the crowd. Now, I've talked about it a little bit already, in that, again, it was very much a crowd that was in favor of everything that was going on. It was also a damn near packed crowd. Like, again, in my hubris of being like, I've never heard of them, I had thought beforehand, might be some people there or something like that. It's a Sunday show. Sunday shows can be hit or miss. But, like, I really did think it was probably going to be, like, maybe me and, like, a few dozen people or something. No. The place was, maybe not as full as I've seen it in certain instances, but it was definitely packed. And it was packed from the start to the finish. That says a lot. The people were there, they were there for the whole experience, and I really appreciate that. I have rarely been so proud to be part of a crowd at a live show. And if you've been to a lot of live shows, you know what I'm talking about, because boy, oh boy, are there some shitty crowds to be part of. Sometimes you get hecklers, sometimes there's just low energy, sometimes there's just not enough fucking people there. This was the perfect amount of that. And it was a really great variety of people there, too, because, symphonic metal, in a lot of ways, I do feel is a bit more inviting than, say, like, heavier stuff like death metal or what have you. So you had this really sort of eclectic group of people in the crowd. One person I do have to mention, though, I'm going to call him Backpack Guy. Backpack Guy was, like, kind of to the front of me and slightly to the side. I had a really great spot, by the way. I was like, wasn't right up front, but I was like a few rows back, and I had like perfect view of the fucking stage the whole time. It was great. Backpack Guy was like probably 56 years old. He had an awesome backpack where he'd gone over there and actually like done up like a whole bunch of band logos and stuff like that, like in pen or marker or whatever. Very sort of high school style, but fuck it, it was cool. This guy was doing his own thing. All right, he would air guitar, he was going to do it. Air drums, he was going to do it. This thing, Yeah, he was going to do that too. You better believe it. This thing, that too. It was kind of fun. And then he started doing like occasional claps, like he was trying to get a clap chant going at just the wrong times. And there was no reason for it because the bands themselves were really happy to make those happen. And part of me was like, dude, just let it happen naturally. He was an interesting neighbor to have. I've had far worse. And I would say overall, I enjoyed his enthusiasm. But, and I say this with love to that individual if he happens to see this, maybe dial it back just a tiny bit. If you want an air guitar, air guitar. If you want an air drum, don't do this, please. You are just getting in the fucking way of everybody. Just throw up the horns. That's all you got to do. But again, I love the energy and I love the crowd overall. It was fantastic. Now let's talk about merch and other items. So merch is a little bit lower than usual on this one because, well, for one, my funds were a little bit limited, but I did get some stuff. What did I happen to get? Well, first thing I got, literally the first thing was, boom, got a copy of Delain's CD, The Human Contradiction. They had pretty much their entire discography for sale, which was cool. I like seeing that at shows. I wish more bands did that still. I bought this one because it was the cheapest one. I also really, really liked the song Stardust, so that helped. But all the other ones were 25, and this one was 20. So I just kind of went with that. But yay! I also got another CD because after seeing Edge of Paradise's show, I had to go over there and boom, get their CD, Prophecy. I also got it signed by 3 out of the 4 members of the band, including the gorgeous lead singer who was super badass. Even got a picture with her. Just throwing that out there. Yeah. This was, here's the thing though, I wanted to get a shirt as well. But by the time I got there, they were already sold out of sizes that would have been anything appropriate for me. The biggest they had was a double X in women's size, which was like, no, that's not going to work. But I did get one shirt, and I'm proud of it, because, boom, it is the Delain shirt, but it's also from the tour. And if, you're a concert person and you like shirts, you know that you want to get the tour shirt, And it kind of sucked a little bit just because they had so many other really cool designs, but I didn't want to go over there and spend like a shit ton of money. So, I didn't pick up anything from Xandria's table, unfortunately. And that's not to say that they put on any less of a great performance or anything. Again, a lot of it was just, I had to be kind of, a little bit picky with my funds in this instance. And I knew coming in I was going to pick up stuff from Delain. Edge of Paradise blew me away in such a way that I simply had to. And by the time everything was said and done and Xandria started playing, it was like, I'm going to 3 concerts in the course of a week. Xandria, you kicked ass. If I see you again, I'll get you some merch. Or get some merch from you. And then there's another item, and this is really neat and special to me. Boom! I went over there and got a pick from the Delain guitarist. He went over there and tossed it out at the end of his set. And usually, picks don't go that far, but this one had a little extra oomph on it, a little extra pepper. And I had my hands up. I saw it coming towards me, and I wish I could say that with my perfect vision and hearing and abilities, and I just nabbed it out. No. The only thing I had going for me was basically my spider sense, because it went over there, hit my index finger, and my freaking body naturally just grabbed it. So that's super cool, adding that to the collection of my picks. Very cool. Now, all that said, folks, that's all of my items that I picked up. Let's talk about the pros and cons real quick here. Pros, all 3 of the bands were fantastic. They fit together very cohesively as a group of bands, which is, I'm not going to say it's super important. You can have a mix of styles, but it tends to be nice. Moving beyond that, the crowd was fantastic. Backpack Guy was a little bit of an oddball, but again, in a fun way, and I appreciated that. And, I mean, it really was just a thing of like, in many ways, like, there's really no big cons to go over there and poke holes into this show. The turnover time between each band was pretty good. And again, just the sets were really great, and Delain really finished it out in a great way. Yeah, again, there's not really a lot in the way of cons. So, we're going to go over there and give my final grade. My final grade for this particular show, number 177, is an A minus. Now I hear you say, Brandon, if it was such a great show, why only an A minus? Two things, A minus. Okay? Number one, I was disappointed that I didn't go over there and get an Edge of Paradise shirt. I've been saying this for a long time, folks. Fat people like good music too. Make sure that you have your bigger sizes. And whatever you think you want in terms of that merch, double it. Every show I've been to, if shit is sold out, it's the larger sizes. Just always. So I'm just tossing that out there. The only other thing was just the... What's a good way to put this? It wasn't even really... It wasn't the show's fault. It just happened to be the super crappy weather. That, like, we had a beautiful day right before that, and then the weather was what it was, and it was just like, blurg! So it made it a little bit, but I really am just, picking a few holes, because it was a really fantastic show, and again, I really don't have any faults to pick with it. S is my top tier. It is going to be extremely hard for any show to get to S. An A minus is definitely very good, and quite frankly, well deserved. It was really great. If I'd gotten that shirt, it would have been an A. I'd gotten the shirt. I'm just saying. But anyway, so I'm going to go over there and I'm going to close out now because I am over the 20-minute mark. Folks, I don't really have a good outro yet. I'm still working on that as I'm doing this show. But, folks, please go over there and support your local music scenes, be it actual local bands or just local venues. It is incredibly important that people go out to shows and experience this stuff. Be one of those people that keeps those bands on the road, because people like me, we need that. This is my therapy. So help me out by helping them out. And if nothing else, folks, try to be kind to one another, all that good stuff. And, fuck. Keep it metal. Yeah! Bye.